security has always been a business responsibility. Reason is, with business, you value the dollar impact of the security lapse, whereas the IT is the control arm of the entire company. It's a backbone. Yeah. So in my opinion, security is and always is a business responsibility. See, that depends upon two important factors. You see, which business are you into? For business like a fintech, security compliance, of course, you have to be in compliance with the regulators, right? The security compliance is important, but it will only happen when you have a strong capability in place. So it goes hand in hand, but the business takes the precedence. It's an ecosystem. You see, whoever works with the companies, there is an ecosystem which has to be put in place. Yeah. So let's say you talked about the vendor. We should have a vendor ecosystem as well in the place. We call it as vendor risk management practices. You see, we should have a proper diligence. We should also have a good ecosystem to train the vendors. The most important piece when it comes to the vendors is, do they know which business they are serving for? For example, they might be catering to a business like PayU. For a PayU kind of business, our challenge is following. We have to be compliant, and that means we have to handle the vendors as well to make them compliant. So the vendor ecosystem means you train the vendors, upskill them, teach them security, give them the awareness programs, you see, and then evaluate the entire program back. So first you actually scale out, and then you again scale in, and to understand exactly how much of your efforts are making an impact. Current regulators are actually, easing our lives to a larger extent. They're giving us the right tips, right inputs, right guidelines for every organization, to put a framework in place. Now, once the framework is in place, half of the battle is won. Now, how's the board, looking into all of these pieces? So board is an advisory committee. They take a larger part of the decisions for the organizations. Right? Security is no exceptions there. For board, security is a PayU 0, because a bug in a system can be still understandable, but a glitch in cyberspace will actually put your business to a hold. That means board understands the criticality, board understands the value of this whole compliance and cyberspace. Most important piece which board does is, which many of the people I heard that, the budget becomes a challenge, the resources are not available. As and when I have seen the boards have, in my career, the board has become super sensitive towards specific to this topic. They are not ready to take any risk, whatever in terms of cost cutting, whatever in terms of, the resources. No, they just do not want to take a chance. That is a clear indicator how serious a board is with respect to this specific subject. The strategy piece cannot be driven unless and until you have a compliance readiness. Compliance is actually a bigger word. If you ask me, there is a prefix of this word when it comes to strategy. What is the prefix? A legal and compliance. There is no strategy which can be designed without these two pieces, legal and compliance. Right now, it is always the first piece or the first cut of the draft which goes to legal and compliance, and that's how the best practice is always. You see, there are a lot of frameworks which companies use to ensure that the legal and compliance pieces are the first and mandatory touch points for any of the strategy for a go ahead. But yes, this is again depending upon which business are you in, right? If you are in a healthcare business, of course. You are in a finance business, of course. How about if you are in a toy manufacturing? Yeah, you might not need a compliance piece that strongly, right? They might be having a different kind of priorities altogether. So I will say, to a larger extent of the business, how the business is placed, which business are you into, the entire compliance and cyber strategies and the business strategy alignment goes hand in hand. The top priorities for the organizations like PayU, I think the most important priority is ransomware. Of course, I think if I'll put all these points in an order, I'll say ransomware order 1, data leakage, of course, number 2. The other 2 priorities are not exactly the on the priority list, but they are actually in the operations, you see. So with PayU, we have a very different kind of approach. We want to make sure that we don't work onto the accesses the way the regular classical companies work on the access. We'll touch upon that, but I think the most important piece for any of the fintech organization is ransomware. I think the most important piece for the cloud security is total lockdown. The second and most important piece is integrability. Can we put the entire cloud behind VPN? Can we have a multi-factor authentications in place? These are some of the fundamentals for any of the cloud network or infrastructure has to be put in place before even we actually think about the points which you mentioned, because these are like 50 feet above what we are talking about here. Now, the basic point when it comes to the cloud security and which is the priority for us is, is the environment total lockdown? Can we do an integratability and, a portability to another clouds altogether? How's my backups? How is my, systems resilient towards, cyber threats altogether? If I'm fundamentally sound and, resilient towards these pieces, I am then going to be picking about the points which you mentioned, because then, my fundamental layer, the bedrock is rock solid, and now I can actually build things on top of it. Now, if I pick up on the first point, yes, the unauthorized access is an important piece, you see. But the moment we have multi-factor authentications in place, you can always fight the unauthorized access. How about VPN access? The moment you put everything behind VPN, what will happen? If a user is out of the system, it's done. That's the reason, we should always be talking about the fundamental piece, and cyber is all about, people, process, and technology. Awareness is important. Process enhancements are always important, ongoing process. Teaching people about the technology is something which cannot be having a second answer towards it, right? So that is how I will actually look onto cloud. There are 4 pieces which is important for every organization, you see. Number 1, access rotations and access hygiene. If we have that process in place, you will be able to clean the themes or gain this well before it gets dirty. So a good example is an employee exiting the organization. There has to be a good automation in place, which will be cleaning up the accesses of that employee who is already deactivated into the Active Directory. You see, it's an easy doable thing. Should not be a challenge for people. What is other piece which is pressing for us is, there is a gap in understanding of PIM and PAM solution. Now, what is PIM? It's Privilege Identity Management. PAM, Access Management. User provision happens in the access management box. Now, this is the fundamental difference which is happening. Now, in the world of SaaS, our challenge is following. integrate heterogeneous environment into one environment. And that is when the glitch happens, because your integration means your core system is running somewhere else. You're provisioning the core system, but your SaaS service you are consuming from somewhere else. You see, that means you are cleaning up the users from the core system via automation, but the SaaS service providers still have the user. I think the only way to deal with these pieces is, number one, you should have a VPN accesses across the organization, irrespective inside systems or outside. I think the number two piece is equally important, relevant. The moment, a lever workflow starts, the entire user, base has to be cleaned up automatically. But I've been mentioning about people, process, and technology. The process plays a very critical role. The process is fundamentally the last leap to complete this workflow, which is you take the process, and the moment, employee exits, every fortnight your process schedules, and then you will actually be able to find out how many unwanted users are there in the system. That's the only way to avoid it. I think the third and the good piece, which I'm personally very proud of, is if we can have something like one-time access. One-time access is an important piece for the shadow access. Now, shadow access is something which is a critical piece. Everybody in the industry is burning out. A shadow access is or maybe probably the right answer. Now, what is the shadow access, and what answer we are trying to touch upon is following. Why do we need a shadow access if we can give a one-time password? Like the OTPs we get, right? For Swiggy's, we can have an OTP. Similar kind of the piece we can always do for the people who need a shadow access. The benefit what we are going to get is no permanent users, no permanent access in the system, whereas you have full control over the entire system. For cloud and DevOps pieces, I think the most important part is, putting priorities upfront. Yes, that's true, but that has to be aligned with the business, you see. So when I say security priorities, they are nothing but the business priorities as well. A critical piece of the business is business continuity has to go on, right? That means we are talking about high availability systems. Now, if you see, I am actually doing a reverse engineering of the entire business and then, deriving security essence out of it. Now, for this, automation is the only answer, as far as I can understand, because if we have a good automation in place, you can clearly win the game faster than, and you can actually win the competition as well. The reason is, it's all about the winning the competitions, right? And automation is the right answer. Implement a couple of AI models. The benefit what they are going to give is following. We will have a fantastic example for the business or the industry to copy or to take a reference out of it. Now, coming to what we can do is we have CI, we have CD, we have DevOps teams. Yeah. What we do is we touched upon the one-time access in the previous question. We can actually use that as a pre-step and then make the AI models on top of it. You will understand exactly how the patterns of the users are happening or performing onto the system. What are the common glitches or common bugs which are coming to the system, and you can always automate some of the corrective measures. I can actually tell you about, you cannot or you'll never be able to have 100% bug fixing capabilities, because I was a programmer. I know not all the bugs can be fixed, but yes, that is something which is yet to happen. But you can still automate 96% of the systems, the remaining 4 to 5% for humans. Implement AI automation is gonna help.